fans. The tale of the tape shows 26-year-old boxing expert Laverne Clark, 5'11", 169 to the 5'8", 156, so a reach advantage against Oishi. Laverne Clark is nicknamed Fist of Fury. That describes his strengths.
It certainly does. He's a professional boxer. He's got a wrestling background, so he's going to have great defense. The biggest thing is he's also got a lot of experience in the octagon.
He was a wrestler for many years, and that is the strength of this young man, Koji Oishi.
And traditionally, Japanese lightweights have been extremely tough in the sport of wrestling. But he is outsized, and he has taken this on short notice, so you have to wonder, how prepared is he? But as you said, it's in Japan. We used to call that home field advantage, and I certainly think the crowd will help him.
Well, our referee, as always, a member of our UFC team since UFC 2, is Big John McCarthy, making the trip to Tokyo. He has our first fight of the night underway.
There
Laverne Clark and Oishi.
Looked as though Clark was going to unload with a punch, and Oishi immediately looked for the takedown. And there it is again. He tried the same thing. Clark's hips are tough.
And Clark has always been able to overwhelm his opponents. When he gets a chance, he is not afraid to reel off and throw strikes. Now, the story here is that this young man, Oishi, took the fight on short notice because of an injury to Daiju Takase, who showed up to apologize for not fighting Laverne Clark, but nonetheless comes in hoping to be in good shape. He ate that right uppercut a moment ago.
Yes, he did, because he kept his hands on his opponent's hips too long, allowing that nice opportunity, that angle, to be created for Laverne Clark.
Now, Oishi trains, pardon me, Jeff, with Akira Shoji, one of the top fighters in Japan, so he comes from a good lineage.
No doubt. You have to surround yourself with great workout partners to test yourself and to learn. And you can see he's got great shots, but Laverne Clark's hips are superb. They're tremendous at sprawling and countering. But you can see Oishi's strategy here is to look for the takedown. He's trying to make Clark miss with a punch so that he has the opportunity to go underneath.
Well, certainly training with Pat Miletich in Davenport, Iowa, gives Laverne the opportunity to continue his wrestling skills every time he trains, and they may be tested here tonight against this 22-year-old student from Tokyo.
He's got him pushed up against the fence. You hear Big John McCarthy saying no grabbing the fence. That would be a foul if you grab it and hold it. Whether offensively or defensively, you're not allowed to grab the fence. But it seems he wants to stay close to Clark and take away, or at least limit, the kind of punching Clark can do.
Clark working the solar plex area right now. First of 3 5-minute rounds with 2:55 remaining in the first round. They separate, and this is where Laverne Clark can be dangerous, because he can throw them with the best of them.
And this is where Oishi needs to be very careful. Doesn't want to walk into one of those punches. Clark has knockout power in both hands, and we've seen it in a number of occasions.
Now, he took it to jiu-jitsu stylist Fabiano Iha. He won at 131 by a referee stoppage at UFC 20. And Laverne 3-0 in the octagon, and starts with the left, but the shoot for a double knee opportunity for Oishi.
Started to find the range there. Clark connected with a combination, but Oishi immediately starting to become more aggressive, looking for the takedown.
Tried to get the left to go, and now they look each other over again. The one thing I'm noticing here in the early part is Oishi doesn't look like he's a guy who's going to throw them very often.
No, he doesn't look like he wants to strike with his hands at all, and frankly, I think that's a mistake. He has no background in boxing, and really, Laverne Clark's biggest asset is his hands and his boxing experience.
There he tried to unload on the right, and that is where Clark shows no fear, but now he's tied up, and now we're in Oishi's world, potentially.
He had a good double leg going there, but the fence saved Laverne Clark from being bowled over. Clark using the fence to keep him from falling. Smart move, good counter, keeps him on his feet, and right now it seems that Clark is winning this battle of standing.
Clark, in all, 10-4 in his mixed martial arts career. Loves the fact that he's in Japan. He had never been here before this trip. He said prior to the fight, I hear they're pretty good there. I guess you're moving up when the fight game takes you to the land of the rising sun. The audience here, you will hear there will be a collective hush in the background. It's almost like a tennis match is viewed in the States, Jeff. They really watch for the strategy that the two fighters employ when they take each other on in the octagon.
And out of respect is why they remain silent. It is almost as though their honor is manifested in how they maintain their emotions. So they tend to be a very quiet audience while the fight is going on.
Clark not able to do much from this position. 33 seconds remains in the first round. Laverne Clark, a lightweight matchup, our only lightweight bout on the card tonight, against Koji Oishi. And there's a left from close in range, but still Oishi has him tied up.
Interestingly, though, it doesn't look like Clark is dominating this fight at all. Oishi is putting up somewhat of a defense here, limiting Clark and what he can bring to bear in terms of skills. Looks like Clark might go for a takedown now.
Push off and back out.
Now, Clark definitely not able to employ his strategy for much time at all in that first round.
You could hear Pat Miletich in the corner telling Laverne Clark, push into him and then break off. Keep your distance. Bring your hands to bear.
How'd that feel? Good?
Oishi is going to definitely want to crowd him or continue to shoot on him. And we really haven't seen Clark take any wild punches yet. And he can't afford to, because Oishi has enough talent as a wrestler that he can get a takedown if given the good opportunity.
You know, the one question that you always have when a fighter takes a match on short notice is his conditioning, but nothing in that first round did anything to gas, if you will, Koji Oishi, because they didn't tangle on the ground in a position where your oxygen is dissipated.
Or there wasn't a big sprint or spurt of energy anywhere during that first round. So I agree with you. I think both are very much in control of themselves, neither one extremely tired. I'll bet you most of that water was poured on his head there that you see running off the face of Oishi.
Oishi 13 pounds lighter, but didn't seem to be thrown around at all, if you will, by Laverne Clark, the lightweight out of Davenport, Iowa, in the first round. But this is where Clark likes to set you up. He wants to turn it into a boxing match. He's been able to do it in all three of his octagon appearances. This may be the most talented overall opponent, though, but I think you and I sit back today, Jeff, and we're still not sure, because these Japanese fighters are as new to us as they are to our viewers at home.
Well, he seems to have been training, and once again, with a wrestling background, he's unafraid of walking in. I mean, it's what you learn in any physical sport, particularly one that's driven by competition like the sport of wrestling. There's that double leg takedown. Now we'll see how his grappling skills.
Now, you wondered if Laverne Clark has a guard. Perhaps we'll find out.
We're going to find out right now. He's striking from that guard. Feet hooked inside. Look for him to try to elevate the hips of Oishi and try to reverse him, or at least get him to the side where he might be able to turn face and get back to his feet. Oishi thus far has not tried anything on top. Let's see what he'll try to do in terms of offense.
You know, what's interesting is I look at the history of the wins for Laverne Clark, 3 in the octagon. All have come against jiu-jitsu stylists. Josh Stewart at UFC 16, Battle in the Bayou. Then Frank Carrassi, a jiu-jitsu guy. So he's used to taking guys that can do this type of stuff to him, but he usually counters, Jeff.
He does a great job of countering, and we just saw a real good flurry. Now there's where some energy finally got burned up. Clark was on top, had double overhooks, threatened to roll Oishi. Then he kind of lifted him up with his feet. They went to the side, nice little scramble. Clark got back to his feet.
Being in a foreign country against a relatively unknown opponent, is there a different, and you've fought overseas throughout your wrestling career, Jeff, is there a little feeling of uncertainty for an American fighter, or once the gates have been closed, is it a situation where you know that the gates are the same as they are if they were opened and closed in Davenport, Iowa?
I certainly think when you're away, particularly when everything you do, you hear foreign language, it's an effort to go out and find something to eat. When you walk down the street, it's not like home and you're comfortable and relaxed. It's sort of you're always taking something in, and you can never really feel comfortable. And that's why they call it experience. Once you've gone through it, you know what to expect and you can prepare yourself more to handle it. I was thinking Laverne Clark was playing possum, trying to draw Oishi into him, but I think Clark now is the one that's starting to have a problem, and he's mounted by Oishi.
A moment ago, we noticed the breathing, too, of Laverne Clark, Jeff. It was with the open mouth, and there wasn't enough that has happened in this fight thus far that you would think Laverne Clark was fatigued, but he showed a little sign of it. Now, as you said, he could have just been playing possum.
Well, I think the only reason he might have gotten a little arm weary there was when he had the double overhooks. He held that position for a long time using arm strength. And perhaps that made him a little bit arm weary when he finally did get back to his feet. He bent over. It almost seemed like he was trying to draw Oishi close to sucker punch him. Oishi would have none of it, but then he backed up against the fence, and he clearly looked tired, and then bang. Oishi takes him down, mounts him, but is yet to really strike.
Wrap it up.
Now, Laverne Clark has to be careful here because one thing Oishi is good at is submission, trying to work the left arm down.
Entangled arm, yep. Looking for an entangled arm, but never secured it.
Now, Clark works in practice every day against some of the best submission people in the world, Pat Miletich, one of them. But yet he has not found himself in this position in his UFC career.
Well, he's in decent shape here. Oishi is yet to be able to really manifest an attack from this mount. He keeps looking at that left arm, trying to entangle it, but there you see the power of Clark when he decides to go ahead and use it. Literally threw Oishi off of him, and now he's caught in Oishi's guard.
Yeah, close guard by Oishi, a little different than the guard employed a moment ago by Laverne Clark. Laverne single, 4 children, big-time boxing record. It's 62-6, his amateur boxing record, dating back to when he started boxing at 17 years old.
Watch for Clark now to back Oishi into the fence, limit where he can move, and thus negating some of the guard's effectiveness.
21 seconds remains in the second of 3 5-minute rounds here. Our first bout of the night from UFC 25. Yoyogi Gymnasium in Tokyo, Japan.
It seemed as though Oishi had opened the door, a couple of takedowns. He got to the mount, but he was unable to really get anything off during that mount position. But it seems as though he's got a little bit of offense going now, and it seems as though Clark has slowed and perhaps has fatigued somewhat.
Now, if you are scoring at home, the mount position that Oishi was able to take advantage of in the second round may have given the edge in the judge's mind to Oishi in that second 5 minutes.
It's going to be difficult. I mean, 2 takedowns plus achieving the mount is looked at as pretty darn good grappling skills. But once he got to the mount here, you see Clark hanging onto the head. Because he's down chest to chest, there's no room to really throw punches. And here he's trying to get himself upright, but Clark is wrapping him up, keeping him close. And then eventually what he'll do, besides grabbing the fence there, is he's going to entrap both of Oishi's arms and hang on to him. And when he did that, perhaps that's when Clark got a little arm weary and fatigued. But this long stint there, Oishi never really was able to get any real threat mounted against Clark.
Third and final round is underway here in Tokyo. Laverne Clark, Fists of Fury, undefeated inside the octagon, but has only really connected, that I can recall, with the one right uppercut. And it'll be interesting to see if he can box here in the third round. He desperately needs to try to get some type of attack started here, in your and my estimation, after the second round, down on points to Oishi.
Well, he looks
swings
like
and misses.
Looks like he's got his game face on right now, and those were 2 heavy leather punches. Those were bombs that he threw, and you could see when you miss with the bomb, you lose your balance. But Oishi was so concerned about the counter, he never got the takedown. But there, a nice clean double leg takedown. And now let's see what Oishi will do. Once again, Clark using the feet inside of Oishi's legs, trying to get the elevator going.
2 of the 3 fights in Clark's career, Jeff, have ended in 131 or less. The other went just under 7 minutes, so this is his longest duration of fighting inside the octagon. This is 4th appearance.
Oishi, in his attempt to pass and gain the mount, got reversed, and Clark now is on top. And once again, those are basically even moves. Takedown versus a reversal. I'm not sure how the judges are going to score that. And now Clark is much busier when he's in the guard in terms of strikes.
Clark was busy, not overly damaging, but busy with the fists in the first round too, with the rabbit punches to the midsection of his opponent Koji Oishi.
Well, you could have had that second round a draw, because literally, a couple of takedowns and amount, maybe favor Oishi a little bit, but Clark was able to fend off quite a few takedowns, got a reversal in there as well.
Right in front of our lightweight champion, Pat Miletich, who will defend his title the next time we gather in the UFC. More on that, though, later as we continue our night in Tokyo.
You could hear some of those body shots. Starting to see some bruising on the ribs of Oishi.
Like that, because he'll shove your arm across and try and choke you.
You can hear.
Well, right now, what Laverne Clark is doing is anticipating the possibility of having to go to the first decision in his life. And what a bonus. We talked about feeling like you against the world. Well, the world is his right now, Laverne Clark, because his coach, Pat Miletich, is right there with him.
Why don't we listen to him for a little bit here? He gives great advice. Many people think he's the best in the corner.
Keep him against the cage. Don't let him get the angle. There you go. I know you can hit harder than that. Turning back against the cage. There you go. Get that right arm through. That's all right.
Pat Miletich saying to Laverne Clark, I know you can hit harder than that. Probably because Laverne's hit Pat harder than that in the gym in Davenport.
2 minutes, Vern.
Pat may be a better coach than he is fighter, and that says a lot about his coaching ability, because he's one of the greatest fighters in the world.
Knees wide.
Good advice. Keep the foundation solid. Don't take risk that allows your opponent an opportunity. Miletich giving great advice.
Close guard position. Oishi and Laverne Clark. 135 remains in the match. And the ribs continuing to get a workout from the right hand of Laverne Clark.
Vern, you got a minute and a half. Minute 20.
And in terms of effective striking, not only is he throwing the harder punches, he's throwing the only punches really of this fight. So I would tend to think this is really, faring well for Laverne Clark at this stage of the fight. And I'll tell you, I'm impressed with Oishi. I thought Clark would probably move right through him, particularly with short notice. But he's showing he's game.
Yep, he went ribs, 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 head. Ribs, 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 head. A technique that we have seen used in the UFC in the past, not by Laverne Clark, though.
Pat Miletich used to use that. Yep. Throw punches, and then change the location.
Get that arm free. Get that arm free. Keep working at it. He's going to try and take an arm. Be careful.
Right now, we're getting to a critical time for both of these fighters. 35 seconds remains.
Well, if you're going to steal the round, now's the time to do it. But I really think Laverne Clark will win this fight now based on this situation. Something really drastic has to occur for Oishi to pull this out. Laying there and just hanging on is not going to do it. But in terms of toughness, in terms of heart and gamemanship, Oishi gave Clark a tough fight.
Final 10 seconds, and now you can see the grimace on the face of Koji Oishi. Those punches starting to sink into the rib area. But what John Paredes said to James Wormy might be a mismatch was far from it, as Oishi goes the distance with Laverne Clark.
Well, sometimes style matchups, sometimes the change of an opponent may have caused some confusion to Laverne Clark. You might come in there a little bit more conservative because you don't know the opponent.
I got the sense, and that's what I was kind of hinting to you, Jeff, when I talked about the different surroundings. I got the sense that Laverne Clark was not as comfortable being as aggressive as we have seen him be in fights past.
Well, it may be that the travel had an effect on him. Being in Japan, first time over there, has an effect. And as I said, experience is everything.
So our judges will render the decision. Will it be Clark? Will it be Oishi? So there's two for Laverne Clark. And Laverne Clark wondering exactly what the PA announcer is saying, but what he has said is that Laverne